This is John W. Whitehead, author of A Government of Wolves, the emerging American police state, bringing you a message about the state of our nation. Something's definitely changed in public education since I was a child. When I was growing up, I, through regular tantrums in class, got in a lot of trouble, but the teachers handled it very well, sometimes calling my parents and settling me down and all that. And finally, I moved on, learned, never faced a lot of the things kids are facing today, things I'm going to talk to you about in just a moment. But here's the key. Education, if it goes in the wrong direction, can become an extreme system of indoctrination into supporting an authoritarian state. For example, Hitler was once challenged, saying, "You'll never have my children." Hitler's response, "I already do. They're in our schools. Your generation will pass away, but the ones we're raising up now will be ours." Let me give you a few statistics that bolster my case on this particular point. Roughly 1,500 children are tied up or locked down every day by school officials in America. At least 500 students are locked up in some form of solitary confinement every day, whether it's a padded room, a closet, or a duffel bag. In many cases, parents are rarely notified when such methods are used, and very rarely do these children pose any credible danger to themselves or others. In what may be the youngest example of a child being restrained in this way, in October 2014, a 4-year-old Virginia preschooler was handcuffed, legs shackled, and transported to the police's headquarters after reportedly throwing blocks and climbing on top of furniture. School officials claim the restraints were necessary to protect the adults from injury. In New York, school safety agents tied a 5-year-old ADHD student to a chair with Velcro straps as punishment for throwing a tantrum in class. Police officers claim the straps were necessary because the boy had tried to bite one of the adults. A 6-year-old kindergarten student in Georgia was handcuffed, transported to the police station, charged with simple battery of a school teacher and criminal damage to property for merely throwing a tantrum in class. And then in Kentucky, school officials placed a 9-year-old autistic student in a duffel bag as punishment for acting up in class. As it turns out, it wasn't the first time the boy had been placed inside what they called the therapy bag. As it turns out, these cases are not happening in large cities such as New York and Los Angeles or Chicago alone. They're happening in small towns all across America, and probably in your town because they're often underreported by school officials who don't want to get caught doing this kind of stuff. Indeed, in 2012 alone, there were more than 267,000 attempts by school officials to restrain or lock up students using straps, bungee cords, and duct tape. At least 500 students are placed in what they call scream rooms every day. There were 104,000 reported uses of scream rooms in one given year. If you're not familiar with this term, a scream room is an isolated, unmonitored, locked room, sometimes padded, often as small as 4 feet by 4 feet, which school officials use to place students in seclusion. As one psychiatrist has said, these scream rooms are nothing but solitary confinement. Clearly, the pathology that we've seen with the rise of the militarized police in this country is now passing down to the schools, which is a very dangerous step, as I indicated in the introduction. Those who run a country and run an authoritarian country, they have to get in the schools, run it to a certain extent, and force everybody to be obedient to authority. In my opinion, I think that's one of the side effects of what we're seeing in this particular situation with all these weird punishments, isolated rooms, solitary confinement of kids, things that we used to see in authoritarian countries that Americans would scream about. What can be done? There are a number of things that have worked in school districts that have toned this particular situation down. First, some school districts are using positive reinforcement in dealing with behavior issues. In other words, they're not just grabbing kids and locking them down. They're sitting down, they're talking to them, they're encouraging them. And in some school districts that have used this kind of discipline, it has reduced incidents of having to call in the police and all those things dramatically. Also minimize the presence of police officers and cease involving policemen in elementary school situations, especially where they're handcuffing and shackling students. This causes, by the way, a tremendous traumatizing of young students, as psychologists report. And finally, we need to insist that all behavioral issues be addressed first and foremost with the child's parents. In a number of cases that we've been involved in where children have been treated like this, 4-year-olds, for example, cases we've been involved in. The parents have been called. They're 10 minutes away. Before the parents can even get to the school to grab the child, settle him down, take him home, they've already called the police in and handcuffed the child. In other words, they're removing the parents from education and discipline of the child. And guess who's responsible for it? Folks, if you have children, it's you and me. We're responsible for our children. It isn't the government when they act up like this. So give us a chance to deal with it. Here's the key. As Neil Postman, a great writer, once said, children are the living messages we send to a time that we will not see. If we continue with what we're doing in the public schools today, a frightening future is right around the corner, and our children are going to be sig-heiling to some weird, strange government, and you know who's going to be at fault? You and me, because we didn't stop this. So get down to your local school board with your friends and neighbors and get these policies changed. If not for the future of the country, for the sake of your child. For more information on the Rutherford Institute, visit us at www.rutherford.org.